Hello and welcome to this video tutorial from BlenderCookie.com. My name is Jonathan Williamson, and today we're going to be modeling this building that you see on screen here. The one that we're going to be modeling is, of course, the one in the forefront, which is a very typical 1900s building. You see these a lot, particularly in older downtowns or small, particularly Midwestern towns and such. But very, very simple to model actually, and a really good exercise. So we're not going to be going too detailed on this. We're going to be kind of approaching it as if this were a low poly game asset, or low poly being maybe something for a little bit more of a next generation game. So we're not going to be modeling the individual bricks or anything like that, but we'll definitely be adding in details like the window seals, some of the ridges on these here that, while I'm not zoomed in here, you probably can't see, but if we zoom in, we've got, say, these ridges in here, maybe these plates right up here. We might add in just a simple plate for this, and then the actual detail would be textured. So we're going to, a decent amount of detail, particularly for the scope of a tutorial. But it should be a really good exercise to kind of show you how to approach something like this quickly and efficiently while keeping a good mesh structure that then you could go ahead and export out to any game, or you could take it to the next notch and add in all the extra detail. But like I said, we're only going to be focusing on the modeling. There's no texturing in this. We might be able to come back at a later date and do the texturing if there's enough interest, which I probably shouldn't have said that because I can just about guarantee that most of you will probably want the texturing, but that is definitely something that we haven't covered enough, and so you can probably count on it, but no guarantees just yet anyway. So there's some things that we want to focus on though, and namely that is how to create something like this from the single reference. We don't have any other views from this, and so we've got to kind of look at the reference, figure out some basic dimensions, or approximated dimensions anyway, and just work at the details from this one and only view. So, going over to Blender, what you can see that I have is just the default scene, but if we go ahead and say hit 1 to go into front view and then 5 to switch out of perspective mode, you'll notice that I've already loaded the reference in. Now, something different than, say, if we had a front and side view of this, is I've set it off to the side a little bit such that it's just very easy to quickly glance at it and see what I'm working for rather than using it as basically a tracing reference. So let's figure out some things about this first thing. First, if we look at this, we can kind of assume some basic sizes here. So from here to here, I can just use my grease pencil here. Let me just move some stuff and grab my tablet. So looking at this, from this point to this point, we can basically assume that based on the length of the car, which is generally about 8 feet or so, that this is probably going to be between 10, 12, or even 16 feet wide. But we can get even more accurate if we look at our windows and say, the average width of a window like this is between 2 and 3 feet generally, or 2.5 and 3 feet. Let's just go ahead and assume that these are 3 feet. If that's the case, then between the 3 windows we have 9 feet, and this looks to be, if we average out the width of these 4 brick panels here, here, and here, and then these are probably about 2 feet wide, averaged out. The outside ones are a little bit wider, so that's going to be 2, 2, 2, and 2 for 8, plus 9, we've got 17 feet. Let's just go ahead and make it an even 16 feet. So first things first, now that we have that dimension, with our cube selected, let's go over to the transform, and we're going to adjust our dimensions here. So on the X, let's just go ahead and put in 16. So that'll give us our basic width. And with that, we can say that our windows are probably going to be, they look to be about twice as high as they are wide, based on the fact that each pane appears to be approximately square. So let's assume that these windows are 6 feet tall, fairly tall. And these windows, take up about half of this width. So this top part is probably about 12 feet wide or tall, and this bottom part's a little shorter, and so it's maybe 10 feet. So let's make the entire thing, let's make it 22 feet tall. So we'll just type in 22. And then looking at the width, it appears to be approximately, from here to here, appears to be approximately square. And so we can assume that's 12 feet, and then this is 3 of these repeated, so that's going to be 36 feet long. So we'll put in 36 there, and if we now drag around our view, we can see an approximate size of our building, and it looks to be about right. So let's go ahead and just start from there. I'm going to erase my grease pencil strokes by holding down D and then just right click and dragging to get rid of those. And what I want to do now is to adjust our background image just a little bit. So we'll just grab the size, bring it up, and I'm just going to make it, let's say about 40. Then we'll take it down or over across the X, down along the Y. Just something that's about the same size as our reference, or as our cube now. On the cube, I want to go ahead and hit Control A and apply the scale. And the reason for this is if I hit, let's just hit Control Z real quick, you'll notice that my scale is now all out of whack. And what this really means is that if I were to add in any kind of modifier, such as an array or a mirror or a curve, it's not going to behave properly because my scale is not zeroed out at 1 to 1. My dimensions will always stay the same, but I want my scale to be 0. So I can hit Control A and apply the scale. You notice that switches back to 1 to show that this is now the default size. And this is exactly what would have happened if I changed the cube in edit mode versus object mode. But then I wouldn't have been able to just set my dimensions like this. So now I'm going to go ahead and hit tab to go into edit mode. And first things first, let's just go ahead and move the entire thing up to be leveled at the ground plane. So I'm just going to hit G, Z, hold down Control, and move it up like that by such that it's level with the ground plane, so I can use that as a good base point. And we can see, we might go ahead and scale up our reference image a bit more, maybe something about like that. Take it up along the Y just a little bit more, just to make it more closely proportionate to the actual building so that we can really see what we're doing. Now, since we're going to have a lot of objects here, I'm going to go ahead and rename my cube mesh to building underscore base. Save the file. And now what I want to do is start just blocking things out. And what I mean by that is we're just going to basically block out where the windows will be, where the doors will be, and things like that. And then all the extra detail and such will all be in different parts. The way that I want to do that is just by using loop cuts. So I'm going to hit Control R first to add in one loop cut. And I want to go ahead and position this just a little below center, maybe right about there, which would be this line right through here, basically. If I look at this, I can see that from this point to this point, and I'm drawing with a mouse, and I've had maybe perhaps a little too much caffeine today, so I'm a little bit shaky. But between these points, we consume, it's a little bit higher than these points here. So we'll just remove that. And so by just moving it down approximately 1 unit, that'll give us a nice approximation. Okay, let's go ahead and I'm going to add in another edge loop just a little bit below that, say about right there, and this will be this bottom point. Let's add in another one approximately right there for the bottom of the windows, another one for the top of the windows, and you'll notice I'm just holding down Control while I do this. And even though we decided that these are probably about 3 by 6, I'm not going by that anymore. At least not too much, although I could maybe make it a little bit more accurate if I go to edge length and say, check out this edge here. I can see it's 5.5. That's probably going to be close enough. We don't have any actual dimensions here, and so we're not really going to worry about that. As long as it's close, we'll be good to go. Obviously, if you're recreating an actual building, say for an architectural project or something like that, then you're going to need to be accurate. But since we're just modeling a building by eyesight, from a single reference, as long as we're close, we'll be good to go. Okay, so we've got basically the top of the windows, the bottom of the windows, the top of this bottom section, this ridge right here, and then of course our ground plane. Let's go ahead and add in the loops for the windows, and so we want 2 loops between each one. So we'll just scroll this up, say to right about like that, should be right. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select, or actually I guess I did that wrong, I need one more. So this will be, there's 2, and there we go, that's right. Okay, so on this first one, I'm going to close my view there, and I'm also going to close the toolbar just by hitting N and then T. And so for these 2, these are our windows, and let's go ahead and make this just 3 wide, just to make it real easy. So let's just hit S, X, and hold down Control, and then we'll just take that up to 2.97 will be close enough, and then we'll do the same thing with this one. 2.97. The reason that I'm saying 2.97 is going to be close enough is that way it just makes it really easy to replicate this across each one. And so then this will give us our 3 windows, which now I can go ahead and just extrude these in, and we can assume that this is probably just a couple inches. So I'll just hit E to extrude, hold down Control, and let's actually hold down Control and Shift, and we'll just pull it in, hit G, Y, and pull it in along the Y-axis, say, let's go in 0.25, so that would be 2.5 inches for the inset of these windows here, which is probably about right. Okay, that gives us our window frame there. Then we've got our doors right below it, which these appear to be a little bit wider. And so what I want to do is let's first select this one, and we're going to, well, let's see, actually, looking at this, it appears that this is just straight back. And so what I want to do, we can see that this edge here is about halfway in between here. So let's just add in a loop cut there and a loop cut there. Again, that's just Control R, left click on the appropriate edge and extrude, or not extrude, but move over. So hitting Control Tab to switch into face mode. I'm now going to select, or actually, I'm first going to select this one here. I'm going to hit S, X, and scale it out. This edge here appears to come just about in line with that, maybe exactly in line. And so I'm going to just hit S, X, and scale it up to about right there. Should be just about right. Then let's go ahead and select both of these and both of these, and we're going to take them back what appears to be about 3 feet. So let's just hit E to extrude, hold down Control, slide it back 3 units exactly, and that will give us that. At which point we can go and hit Control Tab, go into vertex mode, and most doors are about like windows, you know, maybe 3.5 feet wide. So let's go ahead and select these and these right here. So I'm just shift right clicking on them, and then we're going to hit S and X, scale this in. Let's see, these here, we've got almost 3 and almost 1. So let's just take these in about maybe a little less than 1. So we'll just go in like this, holding down Control, go in, say 1.7, right? Or actually, whoa, that's way too much. Maybe something about like that, such that these now are just, if I can view my edge, 1.86 and 0.97. That actually really needs to be wider than that, so we're going to go ahead and grab these whole sections here, deselect any that are in the back, which we didn't, or there we go. And we're going to go ahead and move these in, say 1 unit, such that these now are just a little bit over 1. And we'll grab these ones as well, move it in 1. And there we go. Now I want to go ahead and delete all of my bottom faces here. So from side view and wireframe mode, I'm going to hit B and left click and drag. I can see all those faces selected, hit X and delete the faces, because we're going to be actually adding in the ground plane and the concrete in here. So yeah, that gives us that. Now let's go ahead and add in some loops for these windows here. So I can see that the door frame is there at about the, maybe the 3/5 point. So let's go and add that first. So I'll hit Control R, left click, and then I'm just going to slide this up to about right there. It looks almost exactly right, actually. Then let's add in another loop slightly above that, about there. And for the time being, I'm going to go ahead and turn off the edge link. So I'll just hit in and then toggle that off. That looks to be about right there. We'll add another one in just below it, about there. And then what this will allow me to do is to go ahead and add in these pieces, but let's go ahead and do something. Since we're going to need to add in more loops in here, let's go ahead and separate out this front section. And the way that I'll do that is I'm just going to hit 3 to go to side view, hit wireframe mode, and then I'm going to hit B and box select all of these pieces here, and then I'm going to go ahead and hit P and separate by the selection. This way I can just isolate this, and now I can add in more loops here without disrupting the top there. So this will give me some much cleaner results. Just such that I'm not messing up all of my sections above it. So with this, I want to go ahead and add in some loop cuts through here and here so I can do these kind of window frames. But we also want to add some above and below it. So I'm going to first add in another one right down here, and we'll just go down to about like that. We'll add in another one at the top, it's about the same width. And then let's look at our edge lengths real quick. Enable edge lengths. Let's take a look at this one, and we can say that's 0.25. I actually like that, and so we're just going to take this up until it's exactly 2.5 or 0.25. There we go. And then we'll do the same thing here just to make them nice and accurate or even. So what I'm doing is I just hit G and then Z, and I hold down Shift so I can make it more accurate. And now those are the same width. Because then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in an edge loop here, slide this over until it's also 0.25. And if we look at this, we can say it's 0.25. Add in another one right over here. Again, go to 0.25, and you might have to confirm it and then hit Control E and go to Edge Slide and slide that in just a little bit more to make it exact. And then what we're able to do, let's look at this, that's 0.63. So we want to go ahead and slide this over along the x-axis to there. Do the same thing right here. There we go. Okay. And I'm also going to add in another loop cut right in the center here. Control R, left click, and then right click immediately to cancel the slide. And then I'm going to go ahead and just Control left click and drag with from my lasso select all this and select that I missed, hit X and delete faces. Because now I can just go ahead and add in from the modifiers panel a mirror modifier. And I'll go ahead and enable the clipping so I can work on just one side of this since this is identical. And what I want to do now is I'm going to hit Control Tab, go into face mode. I'm going to select this face, and I'm going to hit E to extrude, and I'm going to take it back that same, well, let's see, if we look at our reference, the depth of these isn't too much. Let's go ahead and take it back to 0.1. So along the y-axis to 0.1 right there. There we are. Then I'll do the same thing here. So I'll select these, hit E to extrude, and then while this is going along the normal, take it back to 0.1 right there. Okay, so that gives me my windows right in there, and that actually looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and do the door now. So the door is from here to here, and I want to add in a frame around it. And so we'll hit Control Tab, go into vertex mode. I'm going to select this edge, and what we'll do is let's just put, if this is 3 feet, let's go ahead and select this. We're going to slide it over, and we're going to go to 3.25. Might have to go in a little closer. There we go. Where this is 3.25, and then I'll add this in and slide it over until this middle edge is right at 3. There we go, right there. So that way I have a little bit of a border on each side. And in fact, I could go ahead and select both of these and hit G and X and slide them over until it's even on both sides. And that looks like it's going to be right at the 0.415 approximate, 0.416 to make those nice and even. I can go ahead and select these loops to clean it up, and I'll hit S, X, and 0. Then I'll hit Control Shift Tab, switch to Vertex Snap, hit G, X, snap to right there. Grab that one, snap to there as well. Grab that, and snap to that vertex right there. Do the same thing down here, and that will just clean up that mesh to make it a little more even and nicer to look at. So hit Control Tab, go into face mode. I'm going to select these 3 faces, and then I'm just going to, we're going to hit E to extrude, which will take it in, and let's again take it in that just 0.1 will be about right for the around the door frame around the door. And these don't have to be exact. It's just, you know, it's nice if it's nice and consistent. I'm going to go ahead and remove this face, And then let's select this, and we're going to select this, and we're going to hit Y to split it to give us a separate piece, such that now we can go ahead and we're just going to scale this down just a tiny bit. Then we'll also go into vertex mode and select these two vertices, and we'll pull them down just a tiny bit, just so that we don't have any overlap between them. And then what I want to do is we're going to hit Control Tab, go into face mode. Let's select this section, and then we'll go ahead. We don't have to extrude this back, but I do want to select, or actually, I want to add in some more loops. So I'm going to hit Control R, add in 2 loops, SX, scale them out. And what we're doing is we're going to create the glass front on the window. Zoom in here so we can see it. And let's take the sides out to, say, 0.4. Close enough right there. And then let's do the same thing on the top. So we'll add in another loop. Take this up to 0.4. Zoom in so we can get a little bit more accurate. Right there. Because then I can go and hit Control Tab, select the face. We're going to grab this face here, and you can see it's the same height as this window frame. And so we're going to take this and we're going to extrude it in 0.05 along the normal. So 0.05 right there, just to give us the indication of glass. Let's save our file, and we can pretty much be done with that. Although, well, there's technically a mail slot there, but we're not going to worry about that for the time being. Instead, let's move on, just because we've got a lot of ground to cover. Let's go ahead and I want to add in this inset. So selecting this piece here, I feel like I haven't made this quite tall enough, so I'm going to go into vertex mode. I'm going to select this. I'm going to take it up, say 0.5 along the z-axis. So I'll just hit G, Z, and then type in 0.5 on my number pad. And then what I want to do is hit Tab to leave edit mode. Select these in here. Oops. Only this edge, and then these edges over here. I'm going to hit G, Z, and 0.5 as well, such that they're even and don't overlap. Going back into edit mode on this object, I'm going to go ahead and add in what I need for this. And in fact, I can just go ahead, and this comes in about halfway there, so I'll hit Control R, add that in, and then maybe slide it over just a little bit such that it's not quite, or it's a little more than halfway. And then I'll add in another loop, again about like there. I'm going to take off my edge links, go to about there, and I can hit Control Tab, go into face mode. I'm going to select, I need to add in one more loop, and that would be right about there. And then from face mode, I can select these faces through here. Okay, and actually I want to extrude all of these, even what's down there. And so let's see, how do I want to do this? A good way to do that would be, we're just going to, tell you what, we're just going to extrude this first. So hit E to extrude, take it back. Let's go back along the y-axis, say 0.1. Ought to be about the right distance. And then we're going to grab, or we're going to select these two faces first. So I'm just going to right click and shift right click, hit X, delete the faces. And then I want to grab all these surface faces here. Actually, I want to grab, see, the problem that we're going to run into is that this angle is then going to be different. So what I'm going to do instead to solve this is I'm going to select every single face that's flat. So that's all of these and all of these. And we're going to hit G, Y, and G, Y, and negative 0.1 to move them forward, such that they all now line up. So we're basically just shifted everything forward, and it seems that we have an extra vertex right in here. Or actually, we just have some faces that we're going to have to fix, but don't worry about that for the time being. Let's also grab this, and we're going to select this entire face, hit G, Y, and negative 0.1. So that way it's just lined up. So it's easier to push out the flat parts than to try and extend this or fix that angle there. Okay, let's fix this face right in here. So I'm just going to select this face, hit X, oh, and we need to select everything, and W, remove doubles. You can see we removed 5. We'll select these, hit X, delete that face. Then we have another one here, delete that face. There we go. Let's hit Control R, add in a loop cut, and then we'll right click, and then we'll hit G, Y, and snap right to that vertex. Then we'll select these 4, hit F, select everything, W, remove doubles to fix that surface right in there. Okay, we're making good progress. Let's go ahead and add in these little circles right here. So with this selected, I'm just going to select these vertices. I'm going to deselect by Alt-Shift right-clicking and Shift right-clicking to deselect those. I'm going to hit Shift-S, cursor to selection, and then go to front view. So I hit Shift-S, cursor to selection. Then I'm going to hit Shift-A, and I want to just add in a, let's just actually add in a cylinder. We're going to hit F6 on this cylinder, though, and we're going to change this vertex count to 8. I'm going to set the radius to 0.1, or actually it looks like about 0.25 will be about right. The depth will be 0.1, and then we want to cap the ends, and we're going to align to view. There we go, and that basically creates our circle there perfectly. But on this, let's add in a little extra detail. Let's go ahead and select this face and that vertex. We'll hit E to extrude, right click, hit S to scale in, and then we'll just take this vertex and we'll hit G and Y, pull it in along the Y axis about like that. We can also select this vertex in the back, hit X, and delete vertices because we don't need it. Okay, that does that. Maybe we'll actually, we'll leave it like it is. Okay, let's go and add in this ridge right here. So the way that I'll do that, with this selected, I'm just going to go in, hit Control R, add in 4 edge loops actually. Then we hit Control Tab, go into face mode, deselect everything, Alt right click on that edge there, and then I'm going to deselect these faces by hitting B and then middle click and dragging, and I'm going to hit G, Y, and G, Y, negative 0.025. No, actually, I guess negative 0.05 to pull that out like that. And then I might actually go into vertex mode, select these loops, and this loop and this loop, hit S, Z, and then just scale down about like that. And that will give me that surface right in there. Okay, it looks like we've got a protrusion right here. And so on that corner, we want it from, it starts at the top here, goes down to about there. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add in, or actually I'm going to select these 2 vertices. I'm going to hit Shift D, right click. I'm going to scale down just a little bit. I'm going to move it down along the Z axis just a little bit. Then I'm going to hit F to fill that face. And I'm going to turn on my edge lengths real quick to see how long that face is. It's 0.941, so I'm going to hit E to extrude, right click to cancel the movement. So I've still got an edge here. And I'm going to hit G, Z, and negative 0.941 to give me a perfect square. And then I can select this. I'm going to hit E to extrude, take it out along the y-axis, say negative 0.1, hit enter, and then I'll scale it down just something about like that. In fact, let's just put this at the corner angle at 0.15, about like that. Then I can go ahead and select this by Alt right clicking and Alt Shift right clicking, hit X, and delete the face just so that we don't have a face in the back there. Okay, that adds that. So we're making really good progress here. Let's go ahead and look at our windows. First, I'm going to add in the window frame. The way that I'll do that is I'm just going to select these 2 vertices. Actually, these 4 vertices. I'll just select that face. I'm going to hit Shift D. Then I'm going to hit Z to take it up along the Z axis. Let's just take it up 0.0 or 0.1, about like that. Then I'm going to hit E to extrude and go down, so negative. Let's just do GZ negative 0.25. No, let's do 0.5. Maybe 0.4. There we go. That'll be about right. Then I'm going to, with it selected, I'll just hit L to select everything. I'm going to hit S, X, holding down Control, scale it up to about right there. Should be just about right. And then such that water doesn't sit on it, we'll just grab these back vertices, and we're going to take them up, say 0.1, such that it's slightly angled. And there we go. Now I'm just going to select this, and I'm going to replicate it across. So I'll hit Shift D, hold down Control, and I'm going to hit, I'm going to cancel my movements. I'm going to hit Control Shift Tab, switch back into increment snap, and then I can move it over. And it's not going to position perfectly, so what I'll do is first let's hit Shift C to recenter the cursor. Let's select this, and I'm going to hit Control M, which is my interactive mirror, or actually I guess maybe it's not. So I'll just hit SX and -1. But before I do that, I need to hit period and then SX -1 as you just flip it around the cursor. And then I'll go ahead and hit Shift D again, hold down Control, move it over, and get it approximately right. Move in. If I turn off my background image for a moment, I can get a better view of the grid. And I'll hold down Shift while moving, and that looks to be perfect right about there. Close enough. Okay, re-enable my background image, and now we can see we need to go ahead and I'm going to hit Control Tab, go into face mode, I'm going to select these, and I want to pull these out some along the y-axis. We'll go ahead and hit G, Y, and just -0.1 should be enough. That's not quite enough. I'm going to do 0.1 again. Okay, that gives me my windowsills, and we can start to see our building really coming together. But before we work on the windows, let's go ahead and do this shape right in here. The way that we can do that is going into side view. Let's select our main body form, hit tab to go into edit mode, and I want to add in 2 edge loops. So I'll just hit Control R, add in 2, and that actually gives me a perfectly even split because this appears to be 1, 1, and 1 in terms of their ratio. And then what I can do is hit Control Tab, go into vertex mode. I'm going to select these top ones, hit E to extrude, take it down 1 unit. Then I will go in, select these ones, hit X, delete vertices, select these, extrude down again, 1 unit. Then I'll select these, hit X, delete vertices. And then what I can do is hit Control Tab, go into edge mode, select this edge, hit F. I'll add in an edge loop right here, right click, hit Control Shift Tab, go into vertex snap, G, Z, snap to right there, add in another loop, snap to right there, and then I can go ahead and fill in these edges. And then I'll go ahead and fill in, I'll just go ahead and alt right click, or let's just Control Tab, go into vertex mode, select this, W, select vertex path, and then I'll hit E to extrude, Z, hold down Control, snap to there, select everything, W, and remove doubles. Now, if you don't ever want to do the remove doubles option, you can also go to Mesh and go to Auto Merge Editing, such that if you grab a vertex, snap to right there, it'll automatically merge those. And for our case, this is actually really good, and so we'll go ahead and leave that on. And that looks pretty good now. Although, oh, we forgot to do this side over here, so I'm just going to select these vertices. And I'm still set to rotate around the cursor, so I'll just hit Shift D, right click, S, X, and -1 to flip that around, and it automatically merges right there. Okay. Now, most of these buildings have a flat top, and so I'm going to go in and from this point to this point, just in face mode, I'm going to go ahead and select all these faces. So I'm just going to Control, left click, and drag, draw around most of these, obviously missing a few. Oh, and actually before I do that, I want to add in another edge loop and scroll over to about right there, and then I can go in, select my faces, deselect these ones, and then I will hit E to extrude, and I'll go ahead and take it down. Say these are generally about, these walls will be about 2 feet tall, about to here or so. And so I'm just going to take it down, switch into increment snap by hitting Control Shift Tab, G, Z, and we'll take it down, say, 3 units. Ought to be about right. Then I can go and I'm going to select these faces. I'll hit X, delete the faces, and then let's go ahead and actually let's actually grab all of these that we extruded. I'm just using my box select to quickly select them, or I can use my circle select, which may be faster. Or not circle select, lasso select. And we're just going to hit G, Z, and first switch to increment or vertex snap, and snap to right there. And that way we get a cleaner mesh. Now I need to go ahead and select all of these, and I need to remove those faces. So switching to face mode, I can just select these pretty quickly actually. Hit X, remove the faces, and then I need to actually add in some edge loops right along here. So first, switch back to vertex mode, Control R, add an edge loop, immediately right click to cancel, GZ, snap to there, do it here as well, snap to there, and then I'll add in yet one more there, and then snap to there. And so now I've got one continuous solid mesh. Now these actually probably ought to all be merged. Oh, and we got to do this one right there. These ought to all be merged, and so I'm going to grab these two loops. I'm going to hit G, Y, move them up, or actually we'll just move them over about like that. Let's add in, let's go into face mode. Let's select these faces. Well, not that one. X, delete faces. Control R, add in that edge loop. G, Y, and snap to right there. Do the same thing over here and on the other side. And so even though this isn't completely necessary, this is where you can tell that I'm a bit anal with my meshes. I like to keep them really nice and clean and structured. Even if it doesn't necessarily need to be that way on some of these areas. You know, I could have just left the triangles in there. I could have just left it disconnected, but just me being me, I like to keep it all really nice and clean throughout the mesh, just because of the simple fact that I know it's there and it's going to bug me if it is. So that done, let's go ahead and do this top piece here, because that'll really add in a final touch to it. I'm going to hit Control Tab to go into edit mode on here, hit Control Tab again, or Tab to go into edit mode, Control Tab to go into vertex mode. I'm going to select these two vertices. I'm going to hit Shift D, right click, and then P to separate, or no, actually, first I'm going to hit an F to make a face between them, such that now when I hit P to separate the selection and hit Tab to leave edit mode, I can actually see that object. And so now, the reason I did that is it gives me a perfect edge where I can then just go ahead and extrude these sections. I'll hit E to extrude, right click, G and Z, pull it down, and actually let's switch back to increment snap. Take it down to about right there, looks just about right. Then I'll take this, I'm going to hit E to extrude, take it out, say 1 unit looks about right. Then I'll hit B, middle click and drag to deselect that section, and then I'm just going to pull this up. Oops, I don't want to go all the way up. So I'll just hit Z and zoom in a little bit, and then I'll pull it up to about right there. And then I want to go ahead, add in 2 edge loops, and then I will scale them out to just about right there, a little less than the width of this retaining wall. And we might actually select everything and scale it in just a littlest bit. That way, you know, adding in those little imperfections, such as this not lining up perfectly, will add in a little more depth and realism to our model. I'm going to go ahead and select this, and I'm going to hit Y to split it, then right click, or excuse me, not right click. I'm just going to deselect this section here, which you can't see, but it is actually selected. I'll pull this back, and I'm going to hit G, Y, pull that back. Let's actually just make this consistent, so we'll go 0.1, and if we look at our reference, maybe we actually got to do 0.25. There we go. And then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to edge mode. I'm going to grab this. I'm going to take it up 0.25. There we go. And then I'll grab these bottom edges and take them down 0.25. So I hit G, Z, and type in the number 0.25. Then also take these back just another 0.1. Yeah, 0.1 ought to be about right on there. Although actually, it looks like that actually pretty much comes right in. So I'm going to cancel a little bit of what I did. I'm just going to pull them up, and then I'll grab these and I'll pull them out just a little bit like that until it's about right. And then I'm going to go ahead and select this edge and that, or yeah, just this edge, hit X, delete the edge. I'm going to go ahead and hit Control R, add in a loop right in the center so I can deselect or go into vertex mode, select all these, hit X, delete the faces, and add in a mirror modifier. Add on clipping. Then I'll go ahead in edge mode. I'm going to select this edge and this edge, hit X, delete the edges, and then I'll fill in this and that and that. Gives me that perfectly. Because then I want to go ahead. Oh, actually, I really don't want to connect those. Instead, I want to leave these connected like that because they're different. So let's just add in first one loop on here. So we'll then pull this back about like that. Ought to be just about right. And if we hit Control 3, we can actually go to the other side and view this a little bit easier. Go into vertex mode, and I'm going to add in another loop here, slide it almost all the way down, and then pull it out along the y-axis there. Add in another loop. This time I'll pull it all the way down and hit G and Z. Oh, crap. Hold on. But if I'm going to do that, I need to hit Mesh, unenable auto merge editing. Then I can add in the loop there. And I know you can't see the line, but it just happens that it's actually already there. And so as long as you know that, then you can just add in a loop real easily. Then we'll add another one right up to there. Or, nope. Up to about there. And then another one. Slide this down almost all the way up. And then slide this back along the Y. And we won't do a whole lot more than that, but we can say, maybe we want to go ahead. Well, actually, this is actually straight back right there. And so let's take this down to there. We'll pull it out along the y-axis to about right there. Add another one, take it all the way down, G, Z, to pull it up. And we can say that's about there. I'm going to take these, and I'm going to pull them back to about there, and then these pull back to about there. I'm going to add another loop there, slide it up, and then take it up like that. That then adds in that there. Maybe we'll pull this down just a little bit, something about in there. And I'm going to take this over to about there, add in a loop, take it down, pull it up. Maybe slide these over just a little bit there, and then another one there. Pull that out. And that looks pretty good like so. Cool. Okay, let's go ahead and add in these front plates here, which appear to be about the same width as this. And so I'm just going to select these two vertices, hit Shift D, move it over to about right there. And we've got 4 of them, so we need 2 on each side. If we look at our distance here between this and this with our edge length, we can see that it's 7. And so, if we place them about, approximately 2, let's take this, hit E to extrude, take it up along the Z-axis until it merges with that. Take this out, pull it out along the Y-axis a bit, hit E to extrude, take it in, hit X, delete the face. Maybe this needs to come out a bit more. And then we'll go ahead and add in some slope to the bottom by selecting these vertices, pull them down about like that. Okay, let's go ahead and select this. And we're just going to hit Control-Shift-Tab, make sure we're on increment snap. Let's pull this in about like there, Shift-D, pull it in a bit more. And maybe we'll slide all these over just a little bit until the spacing is approximately right. You know, we don't have to worry about it too much. Yeah, that looks close enough to me. We basically centered in the window and then right on the edge of the window, although we could maybe slide it over just a little bit more, about like that. Okay, now let's add in these ridges here. So I'm just going to first add in a loop. Again, we'll do this from the side. So then we'll add in another one. Select it all the way up, and then deselect this, pull this back. And this is one case where we are going to have a lot of triangles in the mesh, but that's okay. So I'm just deselecting that piece each time, the top one. Take that back just a little bit. Add another one down to about right here. And then another one. Deselect that. Pull it up. Pull it out just a little bit such that we don't have a mesh basically or a face within itself. Add another one all the way down to the bottom. And then slide it out. Pull that up. Deselect that. Pull this back. We can turn off the edge links here. They're just distracting at this point. And so there we can see what we've created very quickly. Let's do the same thing right along the top. Pull it back. Add another loop, deselect the top, and then pull this back and down. Let's maybe pull all of these back just a bit more. And then we'll slide another one up, deselect that again, pull this back. Maybe we'll move this back in just a bit such that we've got this length right here is consistent. And let's pull this whole thing back so that we've got a nice consistent angle through here. You can check that real quick by selecting two vertices here, hit F to fill an edge, and we can see the distance is approximately the same throughout it. And that looks pretty good, although we ought to add in one more section right in here so that we're consistent. Pull this back so that we're not pinching the edge. Pull that out. Then I'll go ahead and pull these down. And I'll pull these forward. Again, keeping that consistency there. And we have to add in one more. Just about like that. Okay, let's select everything, W, remove doubles, remove 20, and so we've got all these triangles in here, but really that's okay for something as, you know, it's small enough and it's only in this one section and it's not going out through the entire mesh such that I'm really not too concerned about it. And that looks pretty good. We're going to do just a little bit more. I know that we're starting to get short on time, and so what I want to do is real quick do these windows. So I'm going to hit Control Tab, go into face mode. Let's select these three windows, and we're going to hit Y and split to split them, and then we'll pull them in just a tiniest bit along the Y-axis, just so if we remove doubles, it doesn't remove those. I'm going to deselect this window, then hit X and delete faces on that one. On this window then, I'm going to go ahead and first, let's hit Control R, and I'm just going to go ahead and separate this window actually so that we can isolate it. And now I will first, let's add in two loop cuts, and then I'll hit S, Z, oops, first I'll hit comma to scale around the individual center, then S, Z, scale them down about like that. I'll add in another one on the top, another one on the bottom, and then while in edge mode, I'll select these two, hit S, Z, scale them up to about the same distance as this, and then I actually want to go ahead and move these up to the base of the window there. So then we can move these up just a little bit. Then I'll add in 2 vertical cuts, scale them out to be about the same distance as well. And so this is the metal frame or wooden frame around the windows. And then I can go ahead and I'm going to select this whole section. I'm going to hit E to extrude, take it in just a bit. And then I'm going to hit Control Tab, go into face mode, and I'm going to extrude this one just a little bit further. And let's see, because this one is deeper. Okay, so this one will be a little bit deeper, and then we'll take this one in just a little bit, such that it appears that this one could then, the top one could slide down onto the bottom one. Okay, we can see we've got this space above the window, so let's go ahead and hit Control Tab. We're going to select all these. We'll pull them down just a little bit, deselect the bottom, pull them down just a little bit more. We'll go ahead and select these top vertices, hit E to extrude, take it in so it's past that, and that should be just about right. I'm going to go ahead and select all this. I'm going to hit Shift D, move it over, and actually, let's see, we didn't adjust the width here, so we can hit Control Shift Tab, switch into Edge Snap Mode, G, X, snap to right there, and Shift D, X, snap to right there. And that will position all of them perfectly. And that basically creates our building, although we ought to do just a couple more things, namely for the ground plane. Let's go ahead. First, hit Shift C to recenter our cursor. Let's hit Shift A, add in a mesh, hit or plane, S, X, and I'm just going to hit S and 25 to just scale this up. Actually, let's go ahead and do a full 30. Will give us a nice ground plane here. And then I want to go in, add in these blocks here. So I'm going to hit Tab on this part, go in, I'm going to select these 2 vertices and these 2 vertices. I'm going to hit Shift D, right click, P to separate the selection. Oh, no, actually I should not have done that. Oh, no, I can still select them. Okay, hit Tab to go into edit mode, hit F to fill in a face. Then I'm going to go ahead and select these, hit S, Y, and 0 to flatten them out. Then I'll hit G, Y, pull them back just a little bit so they go inside the door. And then what I want to do is actually raise this up. So with these back ones selected, I'm going to select everything. G, Z, pull it up, say 1 unit. And then I'll select this. And actually, that should not be 1 unit. That should be a little bit less. So we'll go Z, negative 0.5, or G, Z, 1? Whatever. We'll just approximate it to be about right there. Select this. I'm going to take it up a bit more because you'll notice that we've got this slant in here. And then we're going to go and add in a loop cut to go back. Let's hit Control E and edge slide. And then I'm going to go ahead and select both of these, hit S, X, and 0. And then we're going to hit E to extrude to take it up, which will give us the step right there. Select everything, W, and shade flat. I'm not sure why it's smooth for a second. We'll take this one down as well. And then let's take it in. So we'll inset it. Or actually, I guess it ought to come out. So we'll take it out along the y-axis. Let's also go ahead and we'll extrude these down to right there. And then I will fill this face. I can remove that face, and I can remove this vertex there. And then I'm going to go ahead and we'll just add in another loop. Or no, we'll just take these and we're going to extrude them in towards the center until it automatically locks. Gives us that center point there. And then let's go ahead and I'm going to select these 2 vertices here. I'm going to hit Shift D, take it over to that edge. Now I'm going to hit E to extrude, hit Control Shift Tab to switch into increment, move it over, say 2 units, and then I'm going to select it all. Control Shift Tab, switch into edge mode, hit E to extrude, Y, snap to right there, and that way we just get the sidewalk there, and that will be pretty good. Although let's go ahead and select these. We'll hit E to extrude along the normal, and then we'll go ahead and grab these vertices, slide them down a bit like that to create this point here, which then we can also say grab these 2, pull them in along the X to right there. And I'm not sure what that is. We'll go ahead and leave it out for the time being. I think this will be just about enough. Although let's go ahead and add in this sign, just to add in that little bit of extra detail. So I'm going to select this vertex, Shift S, cursor to selected. Then I'll hit Tab to leave edit mode. I'm going to hit Shift A, add mesh and plane. Hit Tab to go into edit mode. Hit R, X, and 90 to rotate around the X-axis. Let's go ahead and scale it down, or let's go ahead and take it down along the Z-axis to about right there. Deselect the top, take it down to about there. Select everything, SX, scale it over about there. Let's go ahead and add in 2 edge loops, scale them across. Then I'll add in another edge loop there and another edge loop to about right there. And then we're just going to we'll select everything, extrude it back just a bit. Maybe not quite that far, about there. And then I'm going to extrude just this one face in just a little bit. Let's select it at all. We'll rotate around a bit. Point this down. Move it back to about there. Just adds in that sign. And just to give it one last look, let's go ahead and add in this faceplate here. So I'm just going to grab this mesh. I'm going to hit Shift D, take it down to right there. And that ought to be good. Although on this one, I don't actually want this bevel on the bottom. So I'm going to go into vertex, snap, GZ, snap to there. And actually, I can just go ahead and remove that face. And just to be safe, we'll go ahead and pull it down. Down to there. Okay, that pretty much does it. I don't know why this one has a random material on it, or I guess it just doesn't have a material, so we'll just add that one to be consistent. And there we go. That is creating a basic building. Nothing too complex, but definitely enough to get started. I hope that you've enjoyed this, and we're coming in just about an hour, and so I'm going to call it quits for now. But I think we've definitely made a good start, and definitely a decent semi-low poly building. You know, there's parts, particularly in here, that could be optimized a bit. You know, you don't necessarily need all that detail. You could be done with normal maps. But it's kind of on that verge where we could definitely do a lot more detail, or we could kind of simplify it a bit more and just do normal mapping. You know, it's really up to you. So at this point, we will call it quits with our model as it is right now. So thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.